I want to talk a little bit about your strategy here. Y'all have this like saying that you think that libraries are the future and open source SaaS is like dead in the water. And I'm curious about expanding on that philosophy, but also it's like the core of your product is you build it as we're going to take like a durable objects like primitive, make that open source, make it self-hostable. But of course, you're also like a YC-backed company, and you need to be very financially successful. So I'd love to hear like how you think that whole thing plays together. It's just like, what is the future where like people just choose open source libraries, and also we can build sustainable software companies?
Yeah, libraries is an interesting topic. As you know, I have a lot to say about libraries versus SaaS. I believe that a lot of the best like open source companies that we'll look at over the next 10 years will be shipped as libraries and not as SaaS. And so some of the common ones would be like BetterAuth, Autumn, and RivetKit is a library first approach as opposed to a SaaS first approach. So when I say library first, what I mean is step one, npm install, step two, import, step three, it works. As opposed to almost every other open source SaaS nowadays is you sign up for their service or you download a binary, you write a config file, then you connect your application, and then you get it working. And once you get it working, it's great, but the integration time goes up and running it also becomes more difficult. And just the development environment, you end up ending with like Kubernetes setups just to run some open source tool, whatever. The two reasons that I think libraries are going to win over the next couple of years is one, the most important one is that agents are picking libraries now instead of humans. And so instead of Googling like durable workflow engine and then seeing Temporal has like all the best SEO right now and then picking Temporal, you're going to be going into Codex or Claude Code and being like, my billing pipeline is failing, please fix. And then the Claude Code is going to go be like, oh, it's crashing mid request, so we need to go add a durable workflow engine. And Claude Code, when the agents are incentivized to get the fastest working solution as fast as possible. And agents can't sign up for SaaS services. And it's really difficult for them to like orchestrate setting, installing a binary in the background, yada, yada, yada. It's going to opt for the simple npm install and then get the whole thing working right off the bat. And so agents is a big reason why I think that libraries will work in the long run. BetterAuth, I think, is also probably seeing a similar thing already. There's a ton of code on GitHub for BetterAuth already, and it's probably making its way into training models. But when I say at auth, like it's probably going to offer BetterAuth instead of telling me to sign up for other services. The second reason is just that I think a lot of developers prefer simplicity in the application. I think that developers are wary of complexity and adding more and more like critical components to their applications. And so when you install a library, there's something about that where just there's less complexity and less moving parts. Tying that to like revenue and actual like deployment scaling, we do have the Rivet engine, which is effectively like it takes the library component and then it kind of supercharges it. So you can run RivetKit without any external services on a single node. But like once you're like, I am reaching a certain scale and I need to like really go crazy, then you can pull in the Rivet engine, and that's going to be like a drop in a one line endpoint for where to connect to the engine, and then you're going to be able to scale horizontally. And so as a company, our bet is that people will build more and more with Rivet actors. And as you invest more into it, then there are certain enterprise use cases that a lot of people don't need. And so we're technically an open core company if you were to get into technicalities. As in, we feel strongly that our core should be Apache 2, so permissively licensed, and be usable for like a huge amount of use cases. But we can make money off more traditional enterprise deployments, things like Databricks, for example, or like comparable to Databricks with Spark, for example. And with our cloud, we can provide a managed solution for people to run without having to self-host. But I strongly like, I like this company a lot because I think it's a company where we can have a very strong open core and a strong open source philosophy and a strong investment in libraries, as opposed to trying to kind of walk a fine line of doing things like licensing AGPL and then like not really being open source, but calling yourselves open source or following a hash work. And I hope I don't bite my words in a couple of years, but I'm fairly certain that like this is actually going to work. If you look at companies, there's a lot of companies I can list who have made this work. We're a lot quieter than the people that people point fingers at.
That was my next question. Do you have any like examples of companies that you would put into this category? Like I was trying to think through it, and like Vercel is one. Like they provide Next.js. It's a free open source thing that anybody can run. Then they supercharge it on their platform just like they would on Rivet's cloud.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, Vercel, I think is the number one example of like a library that really worked, and then taking their more advanced thing to like supercharge it, like you said. They've had some controversies, of course, but I think that they've dealt with it pretty well. We actually used to say like the first version of Actor Core, which is our library version of Rivet, was effectively, it was Next.js for something. I don't remember what he said, but it was like Next.js for something. So it was like exactly what you said is right on the money.
We've talked a lot about like features of actors and what Rivet provides, but given your current users and like what you want to see people using for, if you had to just talk to the developers listening to this, what would you say would be the single best reason why they should try Rivet?
To be incredibly simple to answer, I would just say simplicity. It's something that I think if you have touched Kafka or touched a lot of like PubSub or real-time tools and you try Rivet, you just give it like 5 minutes, you'll immediately understand why things are so much simpler with actor pattern and why other industries have adopted this so widely. You know, why WhatsApp is able to sell $1 billion company with 35 engineers because of the actor pattern. Some of the most core use cases, which I think will benefit from this, are of course agents, very timely for AI in terms of managing state, managing complex actions and long-running tasks. Other ones being real-time. So real-time is just like built into the core of Rivet itself. And then anything with like durable or long-running tasks. So if you're touching like Redis, Kafka, or Nats, there's a good chance that Rivet will probably significantly simplify your application.
Yeah, it seems like when you start from a JavaScript point of view, you have a much different view of developer experience. Like when I try to go outside the JavaScript ecosystem and I'm reading like docs and setup guides, it's like a whole different ball game. Then I go back to JavaScript and they're holding my hand the entire way. I'm like, oh, okay, this all makes sense now.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time writing actually iOS apps. Like I was like a 3-time WWDC scholar. Some people will know what I mean by that, other people won't. But I think that's like I think there are two things that a lot of great engineers can do is one, like start by building games because you're going to learn about performance and like what low level actually means and like how low can you take your code. And the second one being build with the iOS ecosystem. Not because you ship iOS apps, but Apple has put so much care into their developer tooling that like both on like the actual developer experience I just talked about, and also that as an engineer, you're basically forced to read their human interface guidelines, which is their design language. And so even if you're just like the worst iOS engineer is probably considered a pretty decent design engineer by like most other standards. And I think that like having built Rivet and doing a lot of developer facing tooling with the Rivet Inspector and then like building like the developer experience, it's very like egotistical to say this, but I think that a lot of that has transferred over. And I think, yeah, it seems to be showing. So
yeah, I think an interesting point here, this is just like some broad conjecture. You were talking earlier about how like actors haven't really called on in the JavaScript space. And there are a lot of programming ecosystems, like any language that runs on the beam, like Erlang or Elixir or Gleam or whatever. They have access to this OTP, this like native actor framework there. And every other like ecosystem, it's pretty much it's a service. It's a thing that you have to run. And classically, like historically, the JavaScript ecosystem has been like shying away from running its own infrastructure. Although I think that's like really changing a lot as we see the sort of fatigue of all of these services these hosted services trying to bite out every little part of your application. And now you can't like build anything without signing into 5 different dashboards for whatever. So I don't know. I think it's very timely. And also we just haven't seen other people handle this well, especially not in a way that can be self-hosted. So I'm excited about what you're all building. And I think, yeah, I don't know. I think this is the right moment for it too.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Helping spread the word of actors. Actor killing everyone.